So.
Well, I mean, you know the teams that need goalies, and you know the number of goalies are out there. There's more teams that need goalies than actual goalies that are available. So we elected to use a draft pick to try and secure one. So that's the purpose of making the trade, and we certainly like the season that Billy had. We think he can come in and solidify the tandem with Alex, and I think we got two guys that we can put in the net every night and give us a reasonably good chance to win.
How much does it feel is they're kind of similar in age, and you get, both combined are a reasonable cap hit?
Yeah. One, it doesn't prevent us, signing this contract to, at some point, extending Ned's contract at all. We're in a position to do that. We just found we got two guys that we feel can play in the league, and based on, albeit somewhat of a short or a limited action in the NHL, both guys that have shown that they can win games.
Are you pleased with everything you accomplished? Beyond the draft, you fleshed out the coaching staff, you got a goalie that
chipping away at things without elaborating. There was one or two more things I was hoping to accomplish, which we weren't able to do, but overall, we're all excited. We just finished the draft, and hopefully some of these kids turn into players.
Can you tell us about Dylan James?
You know what? I'll let Drapes talk more about them, but he's a left winger. I think a pretty good all-around player. The little bit that I've seen him, excellent athlete, and plays hard. So I'll let Drapes elaborate more. I watch him really on video, and I sit with the scouts and talk to them about the players. So that's where I know a left winger that has a bit of a scoring touch around the net and goes up and down the wing and plays hard.
How much are you looking forward to seeing these guys in the flesh develop?
Pardon me?
How much are you looking forward to seeing these guys in the flesh play and develop?
Yeah, for some of them, it'll be the first time I get to see them, get to meet them, so I'm excited about it. We talk about Marco a little bit, obviously more familiar with that pick yesterday, but get a chance to see some of these other kids and meet them in person and get to know them. So it's another step in the process, and it's a bit of a I'm excited about seeing the kids tomorrow, to answer your question.
Is the hard part now just the patience, waiting for these guys to develop
Well, that's the way it is. I don't know, we're starting to see, we'll see some of the kids from the 19 draft come to North America that were from Europe or play in Grand Rapids. We're slowly seeing them go through the system and trickle up to our team in Detroit. It just takes a while. As we've always said, they're 17 and 18. They'll go back to junior, they'll go to college, they'll go to the American League, they'll go back to the European Pro Leagues, and hopefully each year one or two of them can progress to the NHL.
You drafted quite a few centers. What was that, just all in all filling a need there?
Obviously, we were hoping we need some help at center, at least in the prospect pool. As we got into the later rounds, just kind of the players that we had in the later rounds were centers. I think we ended up drafting 5 centers. And I'm guessing some of these kids have played wing too, so it wasn't all that important. It's just kind of the way the list that worked out for us.
Steve, do you expect to be active next week?
Pardon me?
Do you expect to be active next week in UFAs?
Well, we've got some roster spots to fill, so we'll try. It's tough. There's a lot of competition for players, so we'll see what we can do. We got some areas we'd like to address and see if we can. We will. It's just a question of who and how long and how much.
How do you balance bringing in veterans versus allowing the kids to kind of fill those holes within your organization?
It's a little bit tricky. Truthfully, last year we thought Moritz would play in the NHL. We really weren't sure on what impact he would have. Lucas, we thought that he would start in the American League. Would he be there the entire season or not? He didn't spend a day in the American League. So I would try to, at some point we need to make room for them, whether it's 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years down the road. But if we think in free agency, if we can find a player a player that fills a hole and the contract makes sense, whether it's a 1 year deal or a long-term deal, we'll do it. But I found some guys are, automatic. They're going to play in the NHL the next year, whether it's Connor McDavid or Sidney Crosby or Austin Matthews. I don't really like to guess, and I think generally kids that have done really well in the American League, that have stood out in the American League, give a good indication they might be ready. Guys that have been really good in pro leagues or elite college players have a chance to play, but I'd like them to push somebody out as opposed to throw them in there, and if they're not ready, then what do? Your team is weaker, and you're kind of setting them back. So I'd prefer them to push somebody out.
You talk about the things that you hope to get done that you didn't today. Are those things, is the book closed on that?
No, we'll just keep working at things, yeah. Obviously for anything in this draft, the book is closed, but that's okay.
So you don't necessarily think you're done between now and free agency?
I don't foresee us making any trades or anything, I don't think. Things can change, but we'll start to prepare. We got our development camp starting tomorrow night, and we'll prepare for the 13th.
When you trade for a goaltender, is that different, like that position, as opposed to if you're trading for a skater? Like, is there somebody on your staff you lean on more, especially? I mean, Husso hasn't played a ton of games yet in the NHL. Like, is it more of a challenge to kind of figure out, okay, is this the right guy for us?
There's so much responsibility on the goaltender, I guess. Like, it's a hard position to play. There's a lot of pressure on them, regardless of who they are. But we feel comfortable that he's an NHL goaltender. We feel comfortable that he'll make us a better team. And we had the cap space, and the contract isn't not 7 years or anything like that. It's a very reasonable term for us, and we think he'll play well. I guess it's there's not a lot of goalies out there, and we felt like we need depth at that position, and we thought it was a worthwhile, I didn't want to call it a gamble, but a worthwhile decision to make, and we expect him to play well for us.
Does the compactness of the schedule really emphasize the importance of having two guys who can both play maybe at least 40 games? Because, I mean, it's just every other day almost.
Yeah, for the most part, there's a handful of goalies that play roughly 60 games, maybe 62. Not that many. And you look at some parts of the schedule, we go every second day. And, I just think you need ideally have a great starter and a great backup. We think we have two young guys that can go in there and play. How the games get divided up, I'm not really sure. Performance will dictate that a little bit, but they're both going to play. And the league is kind of showing like you need your backup to go in and win games, or you need a goalie to go in and win games for you, whether you're playing back-to-backs or 4 and 6 nights on the road. So it's an important position, obviously.
One last one for me. When Bob Bugner became available, were you just like, let's get this guy, kind of like? I mean,
no, well, you know what? I've kind of had some names before we had hired Derek, and Derek and I quickly sat down. He identified people that he wanted to talk to and positions he wanted to fill immediately. Bob in his role was one of those. So really, it was, Derek's decision, and with 100% of my support behind it.